This year I'm going to play one JRPG every month, and by the end of the year I'll rate them from 1 to 12. Last time we took a look at Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX on the Switch. This month we're going to take a look at Final Fantasy VII Remake. I have played the original Final Fantasy VII back in February, so watch that if you want to know my thoughts. So, hi everyone, my name is Adzi, and welcome to my Final Fantasy VII Remake critique. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you like what you see. Now, on to the video. This game has quite an interesting story behind it. It was initially revealed all the way back in 2015 and has since had the developer changed and announced to be released in multiple parts. Even the director was confused as to his involvement in the game. All these signs pointed to this being an absolute shambles when it released, and to say that I was skeptical for the game would be an understatement. I was already falling out of love with the Final Fantasy franchise way before this game was announced, so my hopes for this game certainly weren't high. Most of my worries were laid to rest when I played the demo. The combat genuinely blew me away, so I was very excited for this game before release. So let's jump into the game. The first thing you're greeted by just makes you feel all warm and fuzzy inside. You hear the prelude theme, see the Buster Sword, and hear them sweet menu noises. I'm going to do a very quick story synopsis, and I will spoil the game in this video, so be warned. Okay, here we go. You play as Cloud Strife, an ex-soldier member who seems to be a bit confused on his past, and is hired by a vigilante group called Avalanche, who are sworn to save the planet from the evil corporation Shinra. From there you meet a very interesting cast of characters, who are all way more fleshed out than in the original. You then go on an epic adventure across the city of Midgar to put a stop to Shinra. Now with most JRPGs, the story is interesting, but it's mostly the characters that keep you playing the game, and the characters in this game are fecking amazing. The main characters like Cloud, Tifa, Barret and Aerith are really well fleshed out. Even the side characters, who had a handful of lines in the original, have been given so much more backstory, making you all the more invested in the story. I honestly don't know where to go from now. There's just so much that I love about this game, but I guess we'll talk about the gameplay. The combat is phenomenal. It's an action RPG / active time battle system, something similar to Kingdom Hearts but with a bit more strategy. I haven't experienced such an engaging combat system in a while. Now looking at it, you think it's fairly button mashy, and you can definitely do that and win, but the rest of the system is pretty deep, and I was interested in improving my combat ability, optimizing my party and leveling up my materia. You have a light attack and a heavy attack. Each weapon has its own ability that you can unlock with enough use, and every character plays completely different. Cloud is a massive damage dealer with heavy hits, Tifa is a combo machine and almost feels like a character in a fighting game, whereas Barret and Aerith provide range support, with Barret set up to take more hits and Aerith to keep your party alive from a distance. Switching between characters and giving other party members orders is really simple and quick, so there's very little downtime in combat. The stagger system is great, and I love when JRPGs have it. It gives you something extra to work towards in combat, and when you do stagger them, the satisfaction you get from baiting the shite out of them and then dealing loads of damage is fantastic. No combat system is complete without an interesting backbone in the menus, and I love the upgrade and leveling system in this game. The Materia System returns here in its full glory. It was probably the best part of the combat system in the original, and it's still great in the remake. I found myself constantly switching out materia to level them up, so I had many options when building my characters. A new addition is the weapon leveling system, which adds way more depth than was present in the original. It's pretty similar to the grid sphere system in Final Fantasy X, and that's my second favourite leveling system in a Final Fantasy game, behind Final Fantasy XII. You can spec weapons differently, so for example, the nail bat for Cloud was spec'd for high crit chance and damage, whereas other weapons were set up for when I needed to fight an enemy that was weak to magic. Both of these systems made for a great gameplay experience, one that I honestly can't think has been done better in any other game. So if you can think of a game that has similar system but done better than this game, let me know. With the gushing over the combat out of the way, we'll talk a bit about the presentation. It just works. No flashy menus or any crap like that, just completely functional menus with no fluff. The graphics are mostly great, character models, weapon models and enemies look really good. The environment looks mostly good as well, but there are a few times where they leave a bit to be desired. While I'm talking about the enemies, let's talk a bit about their designs. So we all know how famous Final Fantasy's enemy designs are, and yes, we have seen them in Final Fantasy XV in full HD glory, but there's something different about this game. The enemy designs in the original were great, and seeing them fully realised in 4K is beautiful. Now there's one enemy in particular that I have to dedicate a whole section to. So this yoke was originally in the destroyed highway area, and when I saw it for the first time in the original I was baffled, but was in love with its design. I think you know what I'm talking about. A house. A feckin' giant house. I was disappointed when he, she, it, whatever you want to call it, wasn't in the game. Until you get to the Colosseum and you see this giant bastard come out. The boss fight was everything I wanted and more. The thing flies around, shoots rockets, sucks you into its mouth. It makes absolutely no sense at all, but that's why it's so great. The bosses in general are fantastic. Every single one had me on my toes, and you certainly can't be caught sleeping on these bosses because they will kick your arse. Each one was unique and threw so many different things at you. One time you have to use cover to avoid the enemy's attacks, others you fought 2 enemies at once. This is just how you do boss fights. In fact, there is so much that this game gets right that developers need to look at this when remaking games in the future. This brings me on to the sheer amount of love that was poured into this game. It took 5 years to be released, and in hindsight I think I can understand why. They took so much care in recreating this game. From the bigger things like giving Jesse, Wedge and Biggs more backstory, to remastering the soundtrack and everything in between. I can't rate this game highly enough. It's by no means perfect, but I knew when I was playing this that it was something special, and I won't be forgetting it anytime soon. Now arguably, the part that was given the most love are the characters. We've all heard about the backstory they gave the side characters, but people seem to be sleeping on what they did for the main characters. Cloud is a cold, snarky little bastard in the beginning, but over time he changes from the merc who only wants money to someone who genuinely cares about his friends.
They took everything from us. Again.
Barret is my favourite character in the game. They still lean into the Mr. T macho man trope, but they make him way more sensitive than just a typical meathead. It's little things like him being afraid of heights and his interactions with Marlene that get you right in the feels.
Some bad people are trying to hurt the planet. And Daddy and his friends are trying to stop those bad people. The slums, your friends, the whole planet. It's Daddy's job to protect it.
Tifa and Aerith were the 2 love interests in the original game, but this time they fleshed out Jessie so that all 3 characters were after a bit of Cloud. All the banter between the characters was really entertaining and it made the characters so much more interesting. At first I thought Aerith's voice acting was a bit weird. I feel like she sounded kinda childlike and it kinda creeped me out. After a while I got used to it though, so it was all good from there. They did a fantastic job with the voice acting, something I was a bit worried about. I thought some of the lines wouldn't be delivered as well as I'd hope, and it would ruin some of the moments, but it certainly wasn't the case. Now let's talk about the best part of any Japanese game. The campiness, whatever you want to call it. Obviously there's a lot of cheesy, flirty lines between characters that made me laugh out loud. There are some random characters like Johnny that you find all across Midgar getting himself into some trouble, and his dialogue is so awful but it just works.
What? Truth is, I'm trying to get out of town for... I tried, she was real. I'm begging you, help me.
The whole Dorn Corneo mansion scene sums this up so much. Some fat old slob with real stomach jiggle physics flirting with Cloud in a dress is a sight to behold. One of the most entertaining scenes I've seen in a while. The whole of Wall Market is great. A finger massage that certainly isn't sexual at all.
How about this? Or maybe this?
And then the best scene of all. Cloud dancing in a dress with another man? Words can't describe this scene, just watch. All I can say is, I love Japan. With all the good stuff out of the way, let's talk about my worries about the game. Now none of these are about the game itself. As I said, I'm struggling to find any issues with this game. The main problem that's caused is actually because of the quality of the game. Square have given Midgar not just a new coat of paint, but they've just reinvented it completely. Every single nook and cranny has been explored, and they turned what was about a 6-ish hour part of the game into a 30+ hour adventure. You might be thinking, why is this a problem? And the main reason I think is because of the expectations it sets. The game by itself finishes off really well, something that a lot of people had issues with. Fighting Sephiroth at the end had to be done. I hear people giving out shit about, oh well this wasn't in the original game, this is bullshit, I'm going to boycott, fuck Square Enix. Now I'm exaggerating this a bit, but it wouldn't surprise me because everyone has to boycott something nowadays. But why is anyone surprised by Sephiroth being the final boss? They want the game to feel like a full experience by itself, so expecting them to leave out a boss fight with one of the most iconic villains in video game history is pretty naive. Now with that rant out of the way, now let's get back on to my main point. How are Square going to deliver the other parts in a timely manner? Assuming it took them say 3 or 4 years to make this game proper, then how the feck do they plan on making the rest of the game within the next 10 years? They said it's going to be 3 parts, but that means they have to squeeze probably like 7/8 of the game into 2 more games and release them before people start to lose interest. I'm just a bit worried. They set the bar so very high and it'll be hard to replicate it in the future. But who am I to say? Everyone was skeptical about this game and it turned into the masterpiece it is, so we shall see. I feckin' love what they done with this game. It was everything I wanted and more, and I can't recommend it enough. The combat is great, music is fantastic, and characters are just so good. All in all, one of the best JRPGs I have ever played. I haven't had this much fun with a combat system in a good while, and it's certainly the best thing about the game. So let me know what your thoughts are on the game. Now, with this out of the way, we move on to Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch, so stick around for that sometime next month. I really appreciate your time. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. See yous all on the next video.